Hello, very nice to have you on the show, Siddharth. Could you please
Thank you.
introduce yourself?
So I'm a first year student studying computer science at Amity University. I watch anime in my free time, have some music around me, and I really like to hack machines.
Right.
And I, in general, like cybersecurity a lot. So I read blogs about new findings, new vulnerabilities, and Twitter is full of all this stuff. So yeah.
Right. Elon Musk just bought Twitter, right?
Yeah, he just bought Twitter. I'm looking forward for some edit commands on the tweets now.
Right. Okay, so let's start with the topic we chose today is cybersecurity. So let's start with its definition.
uh, Cybersecurity, well, we can break it into two parts, like cyber and security. So we've got security in real life, we've got it in physical forms, right? So
Right.
we've got like something called active security, like the guards, who keep a lookout. And then we've got something called the passive security, which is like lock pads, keys and all that, which is supposed to protect
Right.
you, but it
Right.
will not actively scan for a threat.
Hmm.
So similarly, we've got different kinds of frameworks in cybersecurity as well. Some of the few are like a firewall. It's more or less an active threat scanner. But we can manually just shut off a machine and we can call it, well, that's like we're securing it passively.
Right.
So security is basically looking for these vulnerabilities in the nooks and corners of a machine or a software and trying to repair it, mitigate it, or report it before the public finds out. So
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it ranges from maintaining your bank balance in a video game to actually securing the money in your real bank. So it has a very large domain.
Right. Okay. Security is only as good as its weakest link. Right.
Yeah,
Like, would you say that human beings are the weakest link of security?
most definitely. The most common vulnerabilities that uh, hackers find are common passwords, easy to crack passwords, or misconfigured accounts. Um, Lazy sysadmins, what they do is they make a service account. They're supposed to keep, a password which is supposed to be complex. So they
Right.
make up a complex password, but just so they don't forget it, what they do is they put it in the description of the service account. So if somebody is smart enough to scan the machine in some way, they can actually find the description of the service and find that little note by the sysadmin saying
Right.
this is a password so that I don't forget it. So these kind of things happen quite a lot. I mean, I don't have any proper experience with this stuff, but the blogs that I read and the machines that I have hacked, I have seen a lot of um, you know the people who actually have supposed to maintain the machines making these kinds of errors. So yeah, humans. In fact, when any employee clicks on a random link, they are potentially compromising their whole company.
Right. Right. So, for password storage and remembering it, what tips can you give so that people do not randomly?
Well, people use like password storers. Like I have
Yeah.
seen a lot of security YouTubers who actually focus on cyber security. They use things like one password or the last pass, which basically you have to remember one tough password and it will store all of them. Now again, it's more of कि मतलब अगर वो leak हो गया तो फिर सब कुछ leak हो जाएगा.
Right.
But
Right.
then there's two-factor authentication and a lot of stuff. You have your phone on with you unless the hacker has your phone and that password, they cannot access LastPass. And there's
Right.
stuff like this. So they made it really complicated for people to hack your accounts, but it's not impossible. So still, like making tough passwords is a task, and people usually ask you to make not a password but a passphrase, as in not keep it like a word but a phrase, as in let's just say like don't keep it something like Batman 123, but keep it like I really, really like Batman 123. So, something like that,
Right. Right.
which
Right.
is not present in these word lists, which hackers already have. Even I have some word lists. They have like 13 gigabytes of only passwords, one letter passwords, two letter passwords, and ranging up to 9, 10 letter passwords, and also alphanumerics. So if you have chosen a password like Batman 123, it's most likely in my list. So if I have access to your username, I can probably run a brute force on your account and go through that list and hit a jackpot something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Coming back to exploitation of human beings in cybersecurity, what is social engineering?
social engineering is a way to sell your exploit. Like if I want to if I want to hack a company, I will most likely not directly attack the company because they have fortified their
Right.
systems, right? Their most strong security is on the outside.
Right.
So what a hacker usually wants to do is first hack an employee. So what they're going to do is they're going to send phishing emails, scamming emails, and anything and everything to get some information out of that employee. Okay, like an email ID. As I said, if you have an email ID and that person has used a very weak password, you can brute force stuff.
Right.
So let's say I want to social engineer you, right? Let's just take an example. So I sent you a link, and
Right.
I say, was this real fun video? So you click on it, you go to YouTube. But what you did not realize, I grabbed your IP. Okay. So what happens now is maybe I have some way of figuring out that IP is linked to your internal network or something like that, right? And I can also make you I can send you a Google form, okay, and you'll write. I can go, just fill this up, and you can win a prize. Mostly people now are aware of this, so they
Right.
don't give their information out like this. But there still are people who get exploited like this. So you fill that form, and in that form, I ask you your username and password, right? And you think that this looks like a legit Google form, and it's
Right.
asking me to log in. It's not even a Google form; it's like a login page. So like, okay, let me log in. But you did not check the URL. You did not check if it
Oh.
has
Right. Right.
HTTPS. So it looks exactly like a Google form, but what it is doing is it's taking those question and answers from you, as in the entries, and is sending them to me, and then redirecting you to something which is freely available to the public. So you
Right.
think that you had to log in to get to that resource, but you actually did not. Now, since I have your user ID and password, maybe I can just sit in the lobby of the company and get access to their internal network. That's when things get more interesting and we start targeting the servers, right? But the first step is generally targeting an employee.
Right. So, can you send these messages through WhatsApp and isn't it encrypted? Like, can viruses be attached to it?
Attached to what? Like WhatsApp messages?
Yeah.
See, WhatsApp is, as per what I know, what I've read about WhatsApp encryption, um, it does not really scan for stuff. You can literally send anything. Like if I send you an executable for Windows on WhatsApp,
Right.
it does not scan it, but when you're downloading it, your browser might scan.
Right.
So I think if you don't have a antivirus on your mobile, which most of us don't, if somebody sends you like an APK and says ये install कर ले bro बहुत amazing चीज है, you probably shouldn't do that. Like APKs are very notorious for hacks. I have made some APKs to test my network, and they're not detected by the normal Samsung stuff. You need an antivirus, any antivirus, but you need something.
So, would you say in these terms, iPhone is safer than Android?
Well, yes, a lot. Like an Apple phone won't let you install just anything you picked off the internet. I don't know a lot about it, but every link that says download for Mac OS is
Right.
registered, and there is something that allows people to download it on Apple. but you cannot download just any file on an Apple phone.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
most definitely more safe.
Right. And what is phishing?
Phishing is, like I said, I sent you an email
Right.
and you clicked on that link and you think, okay, so now to see this resource, I need to log into my Google account. So you see that
Right.
page. You do not,
Okay.
pay attention to the URL. It's not HTTPS. It's some random thing, and
Right.
you just put in your username and password. And when I get that, that's called phishing. Like literally just putting out a link there and waiting for people to click on it and give me their credentials.
Can this also happen like if I have my phone on face unlock and if someone shows a photograph of me, it can access all the data by opening?
I have not experimented with physical security as of now, but I think it's pretty much possible. Like if you've got a fingerprint
Right.
scanner and that person is say sleeping and you just put their finger on the scanner, it will scan. So I think it should also scan a photo. I've not experimented with it, so I can't be sure, but
Right.
ideally it should. It should
Right.
ideally.
Right. And what is SSL?
SSL is your secure socket layer. So what it does is it's over your browser. So let's just talk in terms of internet packets, right? Whenever you make a request to a
Right.
website like google.com, you send an internet packet and then you receive multiple packets back telling you that this is how the front page looks like, and all that stuff. So before SSL, we used to use HTTP, which was unencrypted. So all the packets that you sent were unencrypted. If there was somebody in the middle who was say monitoring the traffic, monitoring the network, they could actually see it pass through and read the contents. Like literally, um, if you make a request to a website, either you make a post or a get request. There are other methods as well, but these two are the major. So when you're submitting a form, say you're inputting the username, password, and you set enter, then your computer makes a post request to google.com saying this is my username, this is my password, this is my session key, give me access to my account. Okay.
Right.
So without HTTP, anybody in the middle who is, watching those packets go by, he can actually see what you requested to google.com. And then he
Right.
can go, okay, well, now I know the username and password in clear text. Over SSL, what happens is even that all that data is encrypted and it's asymmetrical. So even if you're hacked, you're safe. You're still safe, right?
Right.
You send something which is encrypted with your key, with a public key, and when it goes to Google, it gets decrypted by their private key, which is not made public. It's something like that. So even if somebody is monitoring that traffic, they can see gibberish. They can't
Right.
make out what's actually written, and it's not something you can run an algorithm and reverse it. It's not something like that. It's total gibberish. Like you don't even have the normal ASCII letters in it. You have very weird looking characters in it as well. So even if they monitor that traffic, they won't be able to figure out what you sent to google.com.
Right. And there have been a lot of advertisements that if you want safety in your network, then you should buy VPN. Like, what is the concept of VPN?
See, VPN, the full form is virtualized private network. What is a private network? Like your Wi-Fi, right? It's a private network. Nobody without the password can use your Wi-Fi.
Right.
And nobody without the password can even scan your device or even get in touch with your device directly. So
Right.
it's like this little circle with your devices in it, and it's closed, right? It's not open
Right.
ended. Not anybody can connect with it. So it's a private network. But you can through the your modem, your router, you can channel requests to other places so that this whole private network acts as one unit in the
Right.
whole world right there. What VPN does is generally people use it when something is geographically blocked in their countries. Like
Like
TikTok is banned in
Netflix.
India,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, on Netflix, you know. So if you want to watch some Netflix shows, or maybe you want to use TikTok for some reason,
Right.
you use a VPN. So what it does is basically there is this. I told you about this closed circle, right? So they say
Right.
this closed circle in the US somewhere or Mexico or
Right.
somewhere, So what it does is it connects you to that network,
Right.
and anything you request to anybody will go through that.
Right.
So everything you request will get back to you, but your ISP won't know what you requested. Your ISP will think that you requested a website in Mexico because you sent a request to Mexico. Okay,
Right.
and um, say the TikTok server or the Netflix server will think somebody requested something from from Mexican or from a Mexican private network.
Right.
So it will send them the information which it would normally send to a Mexican network, and then they just forward it.
Right.
So indirectly, you basically you made a request. It came to you, but through a different channel. So Netflix doesn't know who requested this page, and your ISP doesn't know what did this guy request, because again you're doing everything over
Right.
SSL. So they can just see what IP you're trying to
So your
connect.
IP address also changes.
Yeah. So what when you go to myip.com or something like this,
Right.
you again make a request via that IP. So when
Right.
that
Right. Right.
that website scans for who is asking for their own IP, they scan the IP of this private network and then obviously return the whole page to you. So
Right.
everything you search for will route through that IP. It will, like, you ask your friend, कि भाई ma'am say जरा ये पूछ लो. So he
Ah,
asks her. So she thinks that that guy wants the answer, but it's actually you who wants the answer. So it's basically asking everything to your professor via a friend. That's
right.
uh, like a rough example for this.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Right. And what is port scanning?
Okay, so see, every computer, let's take a generic computer like your computer, my computer, and even the servers. So they comprise of 65,535 ports.
Okay.
What are these ports? These basically whenever you connect to anybody,
Right.
or say whenever you connect to google.com, you connect to their port 80. Okay. And whenever somebody connects to you, they can connect to any port. Generally, in all our computers, every port is closed for safety. But in servers, like if you have a server, है ना, and you want to run a website on it, so you have to open some port that so that other people can connect.
Right.
So usually HTTP is hosted on port number 80,
Right.
and HTTPS is hosted on port number 443. Just the encrypted version. So if you go to say https google.com, https www.google.com, you will be most likely connected to a port 443 of any server that they're using.
Right.
What happens in port scanning is it's the first step when you want to hack a machine. Like when I target a machine in an internal network, I run a port scan. Like what service is running on the port? Like basically what services are running on the machine? What does
Right.
the machine offer to its users? I can see all of that. Like if there's a backend MySQL database or like an Apache web server hosted, I can see everything. This is the first step. After that, obviously, you look for those, what happens in the ports and all that. Very advanced port scanners like Nmap can also scan what version of Apache you're running. Not just it can not just tell you that it's running a web server कि भाई HTTP से connect कर लो. It can also tell you कि भाई Apache 3.5 or like whatever some version is running. So you
Right.
can go on some websites like exploitdb.com and look for exploits. कि मतलब if this is an old framework, old version, then most likely इसका exploit already exists, and you just have to वहाँ से code उठाया अपने computer में डाला, you run it and you can exploit stuff.
Right.
So port scanning is like the first step when you want to target a machine or when you want to secure a machine. You look for open ports. Like maybe for testing you opened a port and now it's just running a service which you don't want the users to actually use. So you close that port. Without
Right.
open ports, you cannot directly connect to a computer.
Okay. And why should a person have their firewall enabled?
See, firewall again. I said it's like active scanning of threats. है ना?
Right.
So you can take an example of like our college fest. है ना? So
Hmm.
we've got these two big gates. Let's just remove the guards and those turning gates. We just got two big gates. Now
Right.
the fest is going on inside. We've got these two big gates. So either we can close them, basically closing all the ports, and nobody can enter. But that's of no use.
Right.
We want people to attend the fest, or we can open all the gates. But then anybody can get in. We don't know what their intent is. Maybe they don't even want to attend the festival, right?
Right.
So that is again a security risk. So what we do is we just close those gates, and we ask a guard to stand there with those. Rather, let's not include the guard. Let's just put those turning gates where you tap your card and you get in. That
Right.
is like very basic authentication that I belong here. I'm a
Right.
student here. Uh,
Right.
so if somebody has that card, they can tap in, they can go in. So like the initial thought would be like, this is great. Now only the students can get in. But it is very easily exploitable. We
Right.
can use the
Right.
same card
Yeah.
10
Anyone's
times.
card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
है ना? You can even impersonate somebody else. You can take
Right.
anybody else's card. Earlier they used to have biometrics, but now
Hmm.
now they don't, which would reduce the security risk, the biometrics. Even then, we could scan our biometrics again and again and let anybody enter.
Right.
It's easily exploitable. So let's introduce the guards. Now the guards stand there. They look at those turning gates. They prevent any abuse of the keys. है ना? But
Right.
again, now when there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people wanna get in, they can't really take a look at everybody. Like किसी ने दो बारी तो नहीं swipe कर दिया and all of that stuff. So again, now you can just keep on upgrading like more guards or more set of turning gates. You can just upgrade, but these basically form the main security for our campus.
Right.
We've got a different set of security around the stage, around where the fest is going, but this is like the first line of security for our campus. So firewall again is your first line of defense for any server. It like I said, we were talking about internet packets, right? So a packet wants to connect to some port XYZ, right? So the firewall, it inspects the packet. The guards, they inspect those kids that maybe they're not carrying any weapon, they're not carrying anything which could be
Right.
malicious or anything like that. So the firewall is scanning those packets. So the firewall goes, okay, where you from, where do you want to go, what information do you hold. Basically the data it holds can be very harmful, maybe nobody knows.
Right.
So the firewall scans it and it senses the patterns. Like many a times that data that the packet is holding is again encrypted, right? So the firewall cannot decrypt it. So what it does, it scans for patterns, like what speed are the packets coming in. For example, if a guard sees a mob coming in, it's going to understand that okay, these may not be
Right. Right.
students.
Right.
Like
Right.
बहुत सारे लोग एक
Right.
साथ घुस रहे हैं. They have like the same attire kind of stuff. So they can identify कि okay, these people are together
Their
and we need
intention
to
is malicious.
yeah, we need to inspect more closely,
Right.
stuff
Right.
like that. So the firewall can also sense these patterns, and in the end, it tries to block all the malware and anything which might want to connect to some port. So it's basically like you have a port, and it's the firewall is like, wait, you
Right.
got to go through me first. So it's like a first layer of defense. If you look at Windows firewall, you will see it has blocked all the ports. It
Hmm.
generally does a pretty good job of protecting your machine. But again, I have personally had quite a bit of Windows machines, and Windows Defender does not scan everything perfectly. Like the firewall still has some
Even in
nooks
Windows
and
11.
crannies. I've not tried in Windows 11, but Windows 10 Defender,
Right.
things try getting past the Windows Defender is not very difficult.
Okay.
So it's really advisable to have Kaspersky or McAfee, some sort of antivirus on your system,
And
especially if you like to crack games or visit like pirated movie websites or stuff like that, because everything you click, it can stuff gets downloaded.
Definitely,
Maybe
definitely.
it gets downloaded in your temporary folder. You don't know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
So if you do that often, you should probably get like an antivirus software to install.
And if you have an antivirus, like, would you advise getting an anti-malware as well?
There's this wonderful anti-malware. It's called Malware Bytes.
Right,
So it does a pretty fast scan. I thought at first I was like, this is scanning way too fast.
right,
It might miss something, but it cleans up stuff really good. Like if something is very like in the least bit fishy, it still points that out. Like, yeah, this may not be the best for your computer. So
right,
Malwarebytes is really good for, especially for malware. But in general, if you're looking for an antivirus, I think Kaspersky does an amazing job.
right. So what I did was I purchased an antivirus and anti-malware, but anti-malware hogged too much of my RAM. So it
Yeah, that's a major issue. Even I think Windows Defender, if your machine gets too clogged with these adwares and spywares, it
right, right.
starts generating a lot of scans because it gets conscious. Like there is always stuff here, so it keeps on scanning. And when I had McAfee, I think 2 or 3 gigabytes of RAM used was most definitely going to McAfee. So right now, like in my computer, I only have Windows Defender. I don't have any other antivirus, but this is because I have recently, like cleaned off my computer and I've not
Right,
really put anything new on it. But I'm definitely planning to get. I think I've got Kaspersky with me, so I'll put it on.
right. Okay, if we talk in terms of phone, so like can apps access your data? Obviously, they can access your data, but like in Android, they give you this notification now that you have to give permission to allow
Hmm.
them to access storage or your contacts. And let's say you allowed that, but you did not allow certain other things. Can they still access them?
They should not be able to, unless, see, the Android is the ARM basically is based on Linux. So when you try to access its file system, it's quite similar to Linux. And Linux is known for its flexibility and security issues majorly. Like if you have a
Right.
Linux system, you really need to secure it manually, more or less, because or use like an antivirus, because it gives the user too many rights. Like I
Hmm.
can be in Linux and remove the whole Linux. It gives me that much power. Like if you
Hmm.
try to remove your Windows files, it won't allow you. But if you want to remove your Linux files from within Linux, it still allows you. Like if you have sudo rights, you can do that. So Android is somewhat based on that. Again, I don't have much experience with Android hacking, but see, like the APKs which I have made, they don't ask you for permission. They just ask
Hmm.
you to install them. When you install them, they just send this little signal back to me, and they're like, yeah,
Right.
dude, we hacked this. You can now control it. So now I have access to your file system. So technically, without any permission, I have access to your file system. The apps which are on Google Play Store, when you download them, so the Play Store requires you to, list everything and anything that you need for your app, which you
Right.
require from the user. I think if you download an APK from just anywhere, they will
Hmm.
probably be able to, get hands on your data.
Right. Okay. And can you differentiate the various morality or legality of different kinds of hackings?
So I think you're talking about these black hats, white hats, and
Right.
grey
Yeah. Yeah.
hats. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people like to differentiate the hackers in these ways. So the black hat hackers, people consider the malicious hackers. See, in general, there's still a little stigma about a person being called a hacker. When I told my mom I want to do hacking, she said, "No, no, no, ये सब नहीं करो." She did not know. She did not know what I actually planned to do. Black hat hackers are majorly those people who try to profit off of
Right.
vulnerabilities without reporting them. Like if you find a vulnerability in a website and you report it, you do get compensated for your effort, right? There are bug bounties which offer you cash rewards for
Right.
finding bugs in their websites and stuff. But if you can get through that bug and get like a data dump, a set of username and password, a long list, you can sell that list on hacker forums, or even for people put it on hacker forums for free just to create chaos. And I don't know what goes through their minds, but those people are called the black hat hackers who engage in malicious activities, who are the attackers. White hat hackers are like I want to become like a white hat hacker. So what they do is they're hired by companies. So the companies say, "Ki hack our systems and let us know whatever vulnerabilities you find, and we will patch it with your help. We have a development team, so they try to patch the stuff that I find in their missing in their
Right.
websites and their networks, and they pay me for my services. I hack their networks, but I don't profit off of it in a direct way. Like I don't get data down.
Steal the data.
I
Yeah.
may I don't steal that data. I don't download any file from from the server onto my computer. I just point out that if I were a black hat hacker, I could have done this.
Right.
I have access to this file. I'm not downloading it, but I have access to this file
Right.
and stuff like that. Then there is this very blurry section. Again, you can put a black circle, a white circle, and there will be a gray
Right.
intersection. But I don't really understand that section, because people who consider them as hacktivists and people who say that they hack for good, like recently a lot of people had targeted Russia, for the Ukrainian and Russian war.
Right.
So they had, see, in the end, they committed cyber crimes, right? I feel that anybody who touches the black circle is a black hat hacker. That's my personal opinion. But people say that we're hacking for good, we're hacking for a good cause. So we you can't just say that we're very malicious. So that's their philosophy. Some people call every hacker a gray hat hacker, because they think that while learning or while practicing stuff, every hacker inevitably does something that they're not supposed to do. Like testing on your network is okay, but you get an adventurous one day and you're like, okay, let me test on my neighbor's Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So maybe it's harmless, maybe we don't have any malicious intent, but it does. It's not allowed. It's a crime. So
Right.
many people, it's a different philosophies for the gray hat hackers, but in general, like I tell you, these people are like activists. They call themselves as gray hat hackers.
And how dangerous is accessing open Wi-Fi networks?
See, open Wi-Fi networks. It's see, as you know, there's nothing called free lunch. So if you're looking for free Wi-Fi, you probably should get that free Wi-Fi by getting a username and password from, say, like a McDonald's reception desk.
Right.
You should not just look at your phone and see, oh, there's an open network here and connect it to it. Because again, see, now if everything that you surf on that network, it is going through the router. I told you about
Right. Right.
this
Right.
unit of a personal network, private network. Everything that anybody searches goes through this router to the World Wide Web. Now, what if I just plant something on the router, right? I plant, say, a monitor, a spyware on the router, and I'm like, okay, everything that goes through, just make a copy.
Okay.
You're sending an internet packet to the World Wide Web. Just make a copy and save it somewhere.
Right.
So you've done your share. You surfed the web. You maybe looked at some YouTube videos, and you maybe logged in somewhere, made a transaction or something, and then you left. So in the night, somebody comes. They open the router. Get that whatever they stored everything in out, and they monitor those logs. So now they see that, okay, this person was accessing this IP, this MAC address
Hmm.
was accessing these websites. They sent these requests. they got these responses back, and anything that you did on HTTP over that, they can again, like when I was explaining SSL, I told you that if anybody was monitoring that traffic, they could see that. So with what I am saying, like planting a spyware, they're actually doing that. So if you do anything on an HTTP website, let's say you just had to pay the fees for your little sister's school. Let's just say,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you logged into the school website. That school website is not SSL encrypted. It's like an HTTP dot something something school.com.
Right.
So you logged in with your Gmail ID, and now you tend to forget passwords. So you use the same password as your
Same
Gmail,
pass. Yeah.
right? So now I have the password to your Gmail ID. You made your transaction successfully, securely, because all the banks have SSL encryptions, and it's really proper. But now I've got your username and password. I've got one set of username and password. I can literally paste it on every website. If you have an account, that username, that let's say that Gmail ID has an account anywhere, it has an account on Twitter, I'm going to paste that same password there and try that maybe he used the same password here as well. I'm going to look for a human mistake, or rather a human error, that he reuses passwords. So
Hmm.
once I find that, okay, he reused his Twitter password, then I will go on a binge. I will look for every major service provider, whatever they provide, say Netflix, say your Gmail, anything which does not have two-factor authentication enabled, which does not require you to whip out your phone every time you want to log in, and I'm going to try to get access to it. And I can do anything with those accounts. I can sell those on the internet. I can go like, okay, Netflix costs this much, but I can give you this account, which and I will charge you half of that. So
Right.
what I did was, I'm not actually fighting Netflix for their audience. What I'm doing is I'm taking their account, like you paid for that account. I'm
Right.
just sharing this access to some random person because I have your username and password.
Right.
So it's like, this is just an example. You can do a lot of stuff with a username and password. Like you use username and password to literally access everything.
Right.
So open Wi-Fi networks, uh, like you can do a lot of malicious activity on a Wi-Fi network. Because it's Wi-Fi is not physically connecting you to the router. Anybody can literally just come in between. There's this attack. It's called man in the middle attack. So what I do, if I want to perform the attack, I tell you that I am the router, and I tell the router that I am you. So you send me what you want to send to the router. I make a copy of that, and then I send that same stuff to the router. So everything you want to ask to the router goes through me.
Right.
This kind of stuff. So again, then I can monitor that stuff. So even if I don't have physical access to the router, or I can't actually plant a spyware on it, I can sit on my computer in a cafe and wait for somebody to come in and connect to the cafe Wi-Fi. I can literally intercept their data, and I can go like, okay, you send me what you want to request, I'll pass it on, and whatever you have to reply, just give it to me, I'll pass it on, kind of like that. And you have no idea. You still think that you're connected to the cafe Wi-Fi because I use the same SSID. SSID as in, like let's just say cafe, XY Starbucks.
Right.
My Wi-Fi name is also Starbucks, but because I'm sitting closer to you, than
Hmm.
the router, I am emitting more powerful signals. So when you try to connect to Starbucks, you will connect to me. It's stuff. It's like that. So open Wi-Fi networks can actually be very, very dangerous.
Right. Last question I would like to ask you: uh,
Uh-huh.
buying Chinese phones, or any nation that is under cyber threat from some other nation, like India and China has a conflict over this. Even that game was banned. So, do you recommend buying gadgets from China or Chinese manufacturers?
See, the thing is that avoiding Chinese products is very difficult now, especially if you're
Right.
talking about Samsung and this major players who went to China for their cheap labor. So it's pretty much inevitable. But these companies, they have their set standard values. So I expect that Samsung will play their part in trying to secure our data.
Right.
Like if the Chinese do something to a Samsung phone and it gets detection, Samsung will have like a huge drop in their stocks. They will have a lot of backlash from users worldwide. So
Right.
I personally think that Samsung and these major players, they play their part in ensuring our data is secure. Um, I mean, because if anything is detected by anybody, if
Right.
even if there's one instance of um, somebody selling, of somebody siphoning data through a Samsung phone because it was made in China and they planted something there, it's going to affect like their whole supply chain, not just their manufacturing, but then they would have a lot of excess of raw material. There's a lot of business things going on. I don't know the specifics, but it would impact a lot. So I think that these major players, at least, they play their role
Right.
in ensuring that our data is secure.
Right. So thank you, man. I'll just pause the recording. It was very nice to have you. You were very
Thank
informative.
you. It was really fun coming on your podcast.
I'll just pause it.
Yeah.